And joining us live now with more analysis is Elliot Brennan. He's an associate professor at the US Studies Centre. Elliot, good to see you. Thanks for your time. What happens now? Is it likely we'll see a rush to try and capitalise on that new makeup of the Supreme Court bench, in particular on issues like abortion rights?
Yeah, so this is a milestone day in the US in the history of the Supreme Court. This Conservative majority now has a lot of Democrats worried, and it has a lot of Conservatives quite happy. It's a reminder to Conservatives that holding the presidency is about more than just the White House. It's about the courts having control of appointing judges and having the Senate as well to see that through. So this will have major implications for decisions on abortion rights in the United States, but also for things like Obamacare and potentially disputes around the election on that we're just a week away from now. So this is a major day in the United States, and comes at a really fortuitous time for the Trump campaign, just 1 week out from the election.
So, Elliot, what could Joe Biden actually do if he does become president to try to overcome that appointment? He's been accused, of course, of wanting to stack the Supreme Court if he wins. We've seen AOC tweet today, expand the court. What options are there?
It's a really sticky area for Joe Biden. He's been coy about landing one way or the other before the election, announcing, I think, an inquiry into expanding the courts. That's not necessarily something that flies well with a lot of people, especially, as I mentioned, when Conservatives in the United States place such high value on the Supreme Court, and that Joe Biden is coming to the election with this message of healing the nation. That's something that many people would see as contrary to that message of healing. But he will be pressured by his party, because this could have very dire consequences for things that Democrats hold dear, like abortion rights. So his options are really, he hasn't laid them out on the table yet. So not really sure if he were to win how he would approach it. But certainly there are people who want him to go hell for metal and expand the court.
Elliot, there are some concerns being raised by some quarters that the Republicans are essentially laying the groundwork at the moment to overturn the result in the courts if Mr. Trump does lose. Is that a legitimate concern, or is it just fear-mongering from his critics?
It really depends. We'll get a much better sense of this on election night itself, and how President Trump responds to that. He's been very reluctant to comment that he's willing to accept the result of the election. He's saying that if he's not successful, because he's saying that there's so much importance placed on election night. There have been many elections in the US where the victor hasn't been clear on election night, so that's not an unprecedented outcome. But with the influx of mail-in voting, it could be much longer than a couple of days. It could be weeks, it could be months, and it could be challenged in the courts. So certainly there are worries that now with this Supreme Court advantage to Conservatives, that sets that basis for a Trump victory come what may. However, just newly minted Justice Amy Coney Barrett has said that she doesn't see this as a quid pro quo. She doesn't see her appointment to the Supreme Court as something that means she owes Donald Trump a favour. She's said that she's going to rule down the line, but we'll just have to really see what happens on election night. There is a possibility that Biden will have a big enough lead to sort of put all these questions to bed, and there's also the possibility that this could draw out for a long time.
Well, the polls are certainly suggesting that. No doubt you've been poring over the latest ones. How likely is it at this stage that Joe Biden will be the president?
Just looking at the polls alone, he's in a very commanding position. Even looking at his campaign trail, he's in Iowa on Friday. He's coming from a position of confidence, but Democrats will remember very, very well what happened in 2016 and will be wary of being overconfident or taking anything for granted. There is still an inside line that Trump could run to win this election. It's not over by any stretch of the imagination. So both sides the Trump campaign will be looking at that inside line, aggressively trying to open it up and widen it out. And Democrats will be looking to get a lock on this. So Joe Biden is definitely in a commanding position, but it's not over yet.